All right, continuing on and kind of wrapping up our discussion on the tribes of North America. Um, Yesterday we were talking about the Southwest region before we closed for class. Other groups in the Southwestern region, Apache, Navajo, and Pueblo. These guys definitely did follow food sources and had more difficult time growing agriculture because of their climates. The Great Plains, um, this is where you see the images of the buffalo, right? These were the buffalo hunters because that's where the buffalo roamed. So the Great Plains stretch from south from Canada into Texas. This cultural region is bounded by the Mississippi Valley on the east and the Rocky Mountains to the west. So that's its boundary. Mississippi to the Rocky Mountains is the Great Plains. And the plains, of course, are mainly grassland on which millions of buffalo and other game grazed. Now, the buffalo was a huge food source for many of these natives that lived in the Great Plains region, and they followed the buffalo herds um, when when they needed more food. So the Mandan lived in the northern plains, the Pawnee lived in the central plains, and several Native American groups, such as the Apache, lived in the southern plains. Many other Native Americans lived in the eastern or western borders of the plains, especially the Mississippi Valley, where there are more resources due to that river. To the far east, this is more of an our neck of the woods. Eastern North America, of course, was rich in sources of food and shelter. The east was mainly forest, right? So with the forest comes a lot of resources. And the Mississippi River was the western boundary of the east, and all the way over to the Everglades provided many resources. And the Everglades are over in Florida. To the southeast, we had the Cherokee, the Creek, the Natchez, and the Seminole. Most southeastern groups lived in villages along river valleys and relied on farming. Um, River life, you know. That abundance of water really helps. They also hunted, gathered plants, and fished and traded when they could. Each of these groups was led by a village council, which is pretty complex and forward thinking of them. So it wasn't just like a free for all, there was leadership. In the northeastern region, we have the Algonquin and the Iroquois. And the northeastern tribes lived in a broad area stretching from the Atlantic Ocean all the way over into the Mississippi Valley. So, pretty much that whole eastern coast of the United States, that was once Algonquin and Iroquois territory. This area extended to the north to the Great Lakes region, of course, and south to present-day Virginia and North Carolina. So that far northeastern corner of the United States was held by these two groups, and a very interconnected community. These groups could not farm all year round, of course. We know we get snow. They were they had to survive by hunting and gathering edible plants, but also timing the seasons properly, right? They did grow crops, but only in spring and summer. So the Algonquin peoples, they had the Wampanoag and the Pequot lived further south. In the warmer areas, they farmed, hunted, gathered plants, and fished. They did live in permanent villages. Because resources were abundant in their region, they could settle even though they couldn't farm year round. Some built multi-family lodges, while others lived in small wigwams or round huts. Iroquois lived in long houses or rectangular homes made of logs and bark. Long houses ranged from 50 to 100 feet and housed 8 to 10 families. Can you imagine? Sometimes it's hard just living with your own family, let alone, 8 to 10 more. The Iroquois had something really monumental that they created, which is known as the Iroquois League. It was a political confederation made up of the Cayuga, Mohawk, Oneida, Onondaga, and Seneca tribes. And I like to call the Iroquois League an alliance. They were responsible for waging war or making peace with non-Iroquois people. Really awesome thing. Women selected the men or the male members of the League Council. In Native culture, women were highly respected, and their ideas were taken into consideration. So women selected the male members of the council, and then they could also overrule decisions made by the council and could even remove members. So women actually held some authority in Native American communities, especially the Iroquois, which is so unlike the Europeans of the day. The League helped the Iroquois become one of the most powerful peoples in North America. So, again, it's all about those strengths in numbers. These tribes saw their similarities and they worked closely together to help each other out. All right, so that is our wrap up of the natives of North America.